I'm Al Ferguson, and this is Queer News Tonight Overtime. Let's queer up the USA view. Will LGBTQ media and advocates chase Trump and GOP crazy down every rabbit hole for the next 4 years? As Donald Trump and the GOP prepare for another 4 tumultuous years, concerns are growing over the direction of LGBTQ advocacy. Some question whether the community's media and influencers will effectively tackle critical issues or become distracted by constant outrage. Critics are asking in social media, quote, will LGBTQ media, our advocates, and influencers just scream and complain down every rabbit hole thinking we are doing something by doing that, end quote. Urging a more focused approach, this sentiment highlights a need for strategic advocacy if Trump and GOP policies threaten LGBTQ rights. Advocates must balance vocal opposition with meaningful action, ensuring efforts create lasting impact. With a politically charged atmosphere on the horizon, will LGBT voices chart a productive course or risk losing momentum in reactionary cycles? For decades, LGBTQ advocacy in America has made tremendous advancements, but corporate America's response to DEI programs is just one example that may require changes to LGBTQ traditional game plans. The community faces a choice: rally together with purpose or be swept up in the chaos. And I think the last sentiment of our story today is true: chaos. Mm-hmm. The Secretary of Defense and many of the cabinet positions that are being talked about are focusing on whether they were election deniers in 2020. And the subject is that the ship has sailed. Mm-hmm. We know Trump lied. We know that there was no election fraud. And for us to focus on our opposition to many of his appointments based on their explanations that there was election fraud seems to live in the past and prove the point of what we're talking about. The real question here is, what is LGBT going to do? What are our leaders in LGBTQ community going to do? Are we going to use the same playbook that has been so successful up to gay marriage, for example, and try to apply that exact same blueprint to the just dramatic events that we're watching in America today? And if they do, very likely we're going to have great success issues over the next 4 years. And I think that's the point here, that we're just going to be incensed by something that they say that is radically crazy, and then down the hole we go. I see us doing that.
I think when we hear news media, especially when something comes out or we're clickbaited or whatever in the media, and you see something and you can become irate, and sometimes I feel like that's their goal, to create that, and then you don't see what's really happening.
Diversionary.
Right. It's a diversionary tactic. And I feel like us as leaders and the LGBTQ community, we need to step aside from our trauma that we've experienced over the last many of years and focus together in one unit in order to make an impact. And it's true. We can't just start complaining. It's going to have to be very strategic. We're going to have to maybe reword some things differently in order to make that impact, especially into law.
Hang together or hang separately, as they say. Right. I think we need to be proactive, productive, and we've been, believe it or not, in more restrictive and more violent, dangerous situations in the 50 years that this has become a visible fight to the rest of the world. So spending our time reacting now when, God knows, we've been in situations at least this bad before, and we kept going by sticking together and being proactive. Good advice for the Democrats, by the way, too.
I have to say, we need to also tap on the shoulder of our role models. I would love to be able to quote the exact date, but I was watching some interviews that Pete Buttigieg did on Fox.
Yeah,
and he held his own,
good.
and he
Yeah.
just ran them over, and I was like, you go, Pete.
Yeah.
And I was so proud, and I said, we need more of that. We also need to have people in our community mentor people so that we can be strong and we don't get emotional, but that we react with facts and, factual information. The other thing that I think we need to be careful about is people, the people on the right who are going to miscommunicate what our community is about. And, one of the things that's out there is the misuse or proper use of AI. Being in human resources, we can use that as a recruiting tool to quickly expedite onboarding candidates that we may want to enter into our company. But there are people out there who are misusing it now to misrepresent what we say or what other people say in other groups. And I think it's something where we need to have anyone in our community who has strengths with, computers, anything with artificial intelligence, take that strength and help us in the community with that, however that's done, and that trickles down.
I agree. And, I think it's more important now that we're telling our stories more accurately and in our community. But what I want to focus on is about the corporate America response, and that concerns me because, a lot of our sponsorships come from corporate sponsors. And so, we're very blessed, to have the sponsors that we do have. Amazon comes to mind because their they're really focused on community. And you can see the work that they're doing in the community and giving back, especially in Florida. So I'm really going to be examining a lot of how they're rating on the HRC scales and things like that, and just seeing, in terms of next year, what the policies start to change and, are they still ranking the same? So I think it's important to stay in tune with, the facts and the statistics.
I'm curious to everyone at the table as we talk about, are we going to, the gist of the story is that MSNBC is going to rattle the cage and say, here's the nominee for justice, or the new FBI director, which the heads at MSC exploded yesterday over it. How do you think, it's been a month now since the election, he won the majority of women, he won a significant percentage of Latino and Black men. All of the issues of all of his corrupt actions and the felony convictions and January 20th or the January 6th response, Americans voted for him knowing all of this. How do you think we've done in LGBT in the month since the election? How have we? How do you think our response has been the first month? Are we still in shock? Are we beginning to gather ourselves? Or what do you think we've done in the last month? I'm curious.
I mean, personally, I think we need to empower ourselves individually, but then encourage those who may be struggling. I mean, there were people in the community that I saw on social media who are really having a tough time, and I thought they were, certainly supporting them, but they were the pillars of strength in our community, and it affects everybody differently.
Yeah.
And there are times where I get very angry, and I still think, it sounds awful, but I think, we should boycott any organization or any business, and continue to do so. So the Chick-fil-A's of the world, any of the other businesses out there, any of our politicians who have business affiliations, that we put, our money where our mouth is, and we support those that support us. And,
Sure.
Certainly the Holy Crosses, who are wonderful examples here locally in Broward County as a healthcare organization. Some of the companies out there that contribute to all kinds of causes within our community, from AIDS to, the trans community and beyond.
Sure.
So I think it's just really, we take that anger or that sadness and just, turn it around. And I don't want to say dust ourselves off and sound like I'm minimizing even what I feel sometimes, but I feel that when I get angry enough, it motivates me.
I don't think that a large percentage of our community has gotten out of the fear stage yet. I'm not seeing a lot of people standing up and going, okay, guys, let's get to work. Let's get back to being proactive. Let's this or let's that. And so we're down the rabbit hole already.
Yeah. Do you all agree with that observation?
Yeah, I think it's in a way, kind of a denial. I mean, we know what's going to happen, but it's going to be, let's wait and see what happens day one. Because I look at, he's got total control. Whereas before, that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
So I, in a way, kind of sit back and go, okay, now you've got all control. Now what? Let's see what you can do to change.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be hopeful that it will be a change.
Do you have optimism?
I do. I always view the glass as half full. I've always viewed things that way.
Yeah.
He has done some great things, especially when you talk about HIV and AIDS, which, that's, he did a lot of great things. He's the one that helped develop the EHE for ending the HIV epidemic that we still use today. So he's made some impact in that area.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting time. Maybe to your observation, we can take a deep breath and say, okay, let us enjoy Christmas and New Year's. And then in January in 2025, now we're going to...
That is what I've been doing. I've just been kind of really advocating for my own personal mental health because you know what? I need this space. I need time to just focus on good things in my life, good people in my life, and that's really because you know what? I got to be prepared for next year, and I have to have a clear mindset. So, whatever you have to do to take care of yourselves, I do it now.
That sounds like very good advice.
It sure does.
Well, this has been Queer News Tonight's Overtime. There is no other LGBT nonprofit platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBT stories and by subscribing and sharing.